Another day, another dollar. Am I right or am I right? Fuck me. It's a moody Monday. There ain't no sun in the sky. Only clouds. And rain. It's stars. Some call that nighttime. Me, I call it hell on earth. Let's play a game. What is this, Saw? Let's play a game. Let's play a game. It could just be the last thing you ever play. It's called Genesis Noir. The ambience is gone. Let's play video games. Sometimes reality is too complex for visual perception. Physicists state that the handful of dimensions you perceive are only a portion of those that constitutes space-time. What the true nature of reality looks like, what existed before the Big Bang rocketed the universe into existence, these are unanswerable questions. But imagination embodies the dark unknown in myth. Out of this unknowable haze, a world emerges, wrapped in familiar forms. Your mind transforms the wisps of preternatural smoke into bodies and steel and concrete. Your experience reshapes the world and makes this form eternal. You give it a name, David. You call it the Constant. I lied, it's not called David. It's called the Constant. You really believe me? You thought it was actually called David? Idiot. It was a joke. I'm not gonna call the preternatural constant David. What the? Come on. It was a night like any other. The lights were on, and the buildings were made of materials. The smoke gently wafted from the chimney in that one building in the background, and the bright lights of the hopper were in view. Me? I was across the street, wearing a hat and a coat. Shit, the cops! But boy, I am hungry. Luckily, the hopper was right across the street. But unluckily, I was dead broke, and I forgot that I bought a bunch of flies to put in my wallet. And that's what I spent all my money on. Well, I only had one thing to do, and it was beg for money from random silhouettes. You look like a good silhouette. Maybe you want to buy a watch? You look like the type of guy who could really go for one of these, an Apple Watch. Take a look at this. Beautiful, beautiful. You want this, don't you? Take a look. Oh! They handed me a shiny Abraham Lincoln. It wasn't enough, of course, to go get breakfast at the Hopper, so I had to sell a few more stinky, rancid watches. Oh God, I gotta sell like 20 watches. You're an intimidating guy. I really wish I didn't click you. You need this watch. Look at it. It matches you like none other. Please. Underwear? You're telling me he gave me underwear? Get back here, you son of a bitch. Nobody gives me underwear and gets away with it. I saw him in front of Manny's music. Get out of the way. Never mind, it wasn't him. Excuse me, have you seen a big guy who gave me underwear? He's naked, I'm sure. Some people say I'm the best detective around. Others say I should do a stream about pooping. Luckily, I climbed up to the top of Big Ben in 2 seconds, smoked a fat one, broke the clock, and walked on in. The story, of course, makes perfect sense. This is where I lived. It's like the Great Mouse Detective. I sat on my ladder, because I don't have chairs. But luckily, I had a box of dust-covered but functional watches. Ah, the better days, when watches were free and watches were cheap and time wasn't real. Now I'm gonna call. What was the number again? 980-6650. 80. At this point, of course, my house was beginning to fall apart. 6. All that was left was the clock. Or maybe it was a phone. 5. And the light above my head. 0. The phone began to ring, and everything else fell away. She sounded like a goddamn Charlie Brown parent, and I knew that was a bad sign. Wah! I began to fall to my death. Down the building, down the flights of stairs I went, tumbling endlessly, over and over again, running as fast as I could. I knew if I pulled hard enough, I could just break the damn door off its hinges. So I did. I ran inside to find her. With a gun! No! Right into her neck. It was like everything fell away in that moment. Ah, color, lights, sounds, alcohol. I could finally get a grip on what had happened. Boy, he's really farting up a big one. I could see the fart waves just pouring through the sky. Ah, of course, a shell casing from a Big Bang. The thing that started the universe. It was a gun. The Big Bang began as a sphere of unfathomable heat and density. Uniform and perfect, this humble volume contained all the energy which would become our universe. But in time, imperfection began to appear. Guns. What lovely flats. Whoa! Whoa! Seeding. The tree of time. Couldn't help but notice the ball in the corner. I wanted it so bad. Come back. Instead, I flung it off the cliff where it belonged. Tumbleweeds don't belong in my galaxy. He was nothing more than 3 seeds. I looked in my hand. A white seed that feeds on light rays. I couldn't help but notice Old Faithful. I put a dark seed in it. She loves me. She loves me not. She loves me. She loves me not. I remembered fondly the mini game on the new Super Mario Bros. On the DS, where Yoshi plucked the flowers of a sunflower. I found it very difficult to pluck the flowers as fast as I possibly could. She loves me not. Ugh. I had never seen anything so beautiful. Oh, my God. Oh. I wiped the tears from my eyes. Ah, a lousy fart bush. I should have known. Ah, the clouds were beautiful. And they rained. They rained on me and my parade. And on that flood, lily pads grew. I was making life. I knew next up I had to make monkeys. Which I was very excited for. Because everybody knows the most important thing in any young god's life is creating monkeys. More seeds. I have all the seeds a man could ever want. All the seeds money could buy. Some people said, please, Genesis, which was my name. They said, give me some of your seeds. And I said, that sounds kind of weird. No, thank you. Wow. All of creation spilled out before me. Birds! You aren't monkeys! The river ran deep below. I knew the route had to get there. And I knew that the only way to do it was to roll up my sleeves. Was to roll up my sleeves. Was to roll up my sleeves and start cracking some rocks. Yeet! I yeeted it into the sky where it exploded, as I knew it would. Now that the root was in the water, it could grow a little beautiful plant. Hello. Ah! Snakes, animals, monkey! I saw a monkey! I saw a monkey! The Pompadour Man. He was moving just like me. Perhaps I could make an apple fall on his head. He was very angry at me because I made an apple fall on his head. He took his watch and he waved it around and said, you, my friend, don't got the time. He crossed his arms and turned into gold dust and flew away. The black hole. Right in the gunfire. 1. Spiral to spiral. Spiral to, the spirals go in the spiral. Of course, it all made perfect sense. I wrote it all down. It will stop the gunshot with the black hole. Of course. I knew I was onto something. Something big. Through the mist, a flame burns brightly. I entered it. 38,000 years after the Big Bang, the universe was like a smoke-filled chamber from which light could not escape. The stars had not yet arrived. and a haze of hydrogen would smother all light until their appearance. Over hundreds of millions of years, the pressure of gravity condensed the first star from this cloud of hydrogen and ignited a fire across the whole universe. Memories of the Dark Age, however, linger to this day, for at the heart of every gas giant lives a failed star. It was all starting to make sense, and by starting to make sense, I mean no it wasn't. Password. I knew the password was butt cheeks. I said it and I got in, no questions asked. I grabbed the nearest alcohol I could find and just drank it, just some stranger's alcohol. How could I resist? Just absolute garbage I found on a table. I kept going. The bubbles formed music notes. I kept going. Just some rando's alcohol. The bubbles became more and more musical as it went along. She gave me a wink. I flew out of the club like nothing ever happened. I knew if I kept walking, eventually I'd reach the regional cigarette retailer known as the Butt Hut. I realized all my features had gone away. I said, "Hey, golden boy!" Ah, oof! A cigar butt smelling of an extinguished ego. It's tightly wound and recently put out. A piece of evidence to be filed. Could it be, perhaps, the golden boy was jealous that Miss Mars gave her number to me? And by Miss Mars, I mean Miss Mass. And so he killed her out of spite? Light reflected upon a pool. Volcanic rock, now dark and cold, incubated organic molecules as they sloshed with the tide. Hydrophilic lipids, clumped together, forming self-assembling bi-layer walls. Enclosure gave rise to single-celled organisms which soon began to endlessly recreate their own image. The waters filled with life consuming itself. Vainly reproducing itself larger and larger, life would explode as sexual reproduction birthed seemingly endless variety. What could imbue inert carbon, hydrogen, and nitrogen with desire, a phenomenon called Abiogenesis, is not yet understood. All that is known that in a pool life began. The golden boy. Also enamored. Looking at his CD. Perhaps its golden years had passed. He bowed to the audience. He was thankful for what they'd done for him, but in his reflection, a single tear made him disappear. The water. Could it be a symbol for alcoholism? Among Us! I was creating juice by drying out Among Us over a geyser. There was nothing artsy-fartsy about it. In fact, this was pure raw plot that made sense. Of course. When two things love each other, they spin around until they make a black hole. It all was making perfect sense. It still is making perfect sense. The anemone loved the Among Us, the ring, and the ball. Oh, these must be like microorganisms. I think it's... Okay. Of course, it was all making sense. From the deepest pits of the ocean, there were geysers, and those eventually made little microorganisms, real creatures. I made bullshit for so long, real things began to get made. He was like a constellation in the night sky. Every time I looked up, I couldn't help but see him. As the pull of gravity claws together clouds of interstellar atoms, tremendous pressure builds and a fire is ignited. The star is born in a halo of dust, its belly full of hydrogen, helium, and lithium. Inside, fusion digests this initial meal into progressively larger, heavier, more complex elements. Growing larger and heavier with iron, the star finally collapses and bursts into a supernova, unleashing a wind of rare heavy metals in its dying breath. 9.5 billion years after the Big Bang, the ashes of an ancient stellar explosion begin gathering in a single point. The crush of gravity compacted these remnants so tightly together that they ignited into a newborn star orbited by a halo of dust and gravel. Around the star, asteroids collided. Even larger clumps of inanimate rock were formed, and this protoplanetary disk would slowly gather into 8 planets. Over the next 4.5 billion years, these planets spun silently into the void. For 99.998983% of the universe age, the only histories written were the strata of the lonely geology. But this quiet would not last. Like a wink from a star, I knew Golden Boy was up to something. Well, that's up for us to find out. Oh, I knocked myself off an asteroid like a fool. Sheep? In my video game? Not on my watch. I ripped the shit right off the sheep. They had eventually gathered enough things that they could make art. which I then destroyed because I hate art. Language. It was complicated and I didn't understand it. Because, of course, I can't read. There's nothing I hate more than statues, which I am going to tip over immediately. Winter winds blow as the Earth teeters in its orbit around the sun. 23.5 degrees of axial tilt result in a planet that bows in deference to its star, frosting the distant hemisphere with deep snowbanks and icy streams. But in time, each hemisphere will lean towards the sun. Radiant heat will warm one hemisphere as the other exhales frozen breaths. Without the decay of autumn or the dying off in winter, there would be no hopeful budding in the spring nor flowering of summer. The rare Earth hypothesis proposes that evolution cannot happen without such environmental hardships. The axial tilt that incites the seasons, the tectonic plates that crash together, and other cyclical forces of the planet drive life to thrive through its resiliency and rebirth. No snow was too deep for me. A detective always detects. Rain, snow, sleet, or hail, nothing can stop the detect. Radio waves from the Big Bang echo all across the universe and recorded in their vibration is a moment of collaboration. Electrons and protons, once heated rivals, cooled enough to come together in harmony. Their union created the first elements and left a song that plays in the background of the cosmos to this day. This phenomenon, called the cosmic background radiation, called Nickelback, allows scientists to listen to the moment of the Big Bang and compose a timeline of the birth of the universe. A cat. That cat committed tax evasion. I could put the whole thing in my damn pocket. So I did. Ancient Earth was barren, cold, lifeless, until a collision. An astronomical body the size of Mars slammed into Earth, showering debris into an orbital veil as the bodies melted together. This union left Earth forever changed. Now the moon, at 23.5 degree axial tilt, and pregnant with added mass. The planet had become fertile for the evolution of life. Though destructive, collision has made Earth a rare home from which to gaze at the stars and study the movement of celestial bodies, both past and present. Yeet! I said as I threw the rock. Oh! It came right back around and hit me. It was turning to love right before my very eyes. We had so much in common. Jazz and alcohol. Vibrantly colored flowers that grow on a particle accelerator. How did this happen? For you? For me? I lit myself on fire. I lit the flowers on fire. Oh shit. Smoke the ganja. That was all she needed to be inspired. It was all you. I had nothing to do with it. It was made of cigarettes. All the cigarettes I'd smoked in my life, coming to haunt me. It lit up beautifully. Wow. Now that's a spiral. Dear Diary, I saw Space Jazz Man today. He smoked some particle accelerator flowers and then made a radio. Whoa! Oops, who can forget when I destroyed the universe? My bad. The Kardashev scale describes 3 stages of a civilization's development. The Type 1 civilization utilizes all the energy on its home planet, not yet capable of considering other worlds to draw from. The power is minuscule compared to the Type 2 civilization, which looks beyond itself to bask in all the radiant heat emitted from the star that it orbits. Lastly, the godlike Type 3 civilization harnesses the entire energy output of its home galaxy by tossing matter into the supermassive black hole at the galactic core. To reach one's full potential, a bit of sacrifice is required, it seems. I feel like it's supposed to click. The golden beam is supposed to go all the way around, but it just doesn't. I'm just moving my mouse sort of around. That is really as far as I can bring the golden lights to go. Riveting gameplay here. Riveting gameplay. Riveting. I think it's broken. I think it's broken. I mean, if I push really hard. In the walkthrough I watched, they were doing this, and then suddenly it just started going to the next part. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's broken. I looked at I literally looked at somebody doing it, and they got to this part, and stuff just started coming out. So, what a broken, what a day, what a day, what a day, what a dime, what a day, another dollar. It's like I always say, if you can't end a game, end yourself.